Welcome to the Superintelligent Podcast, everyone. My name is Mike Elgin. I'm in Mexico City, and with me is Emily Forlini, who's in the where are you? You're in the greater New York area, the sort of New Jersey blizzard zone.
Yes.
What's happening with you right now?
I am in the middle of a blizzard. I'm hunkering down yet again. It's, I guess, historic. It's always a historic snow event. But, we talked about the TikTok meteorologists a couple weeks ago. They're back. Everyone's comparing it to decades ago. It's this big blizzard again. The snow is kind of coming down straight, left, right. So it's intense over here, but we're grateful to have a warm house.
Well, there was a light drizzle in Mexico City a little while ago. So that was vexing. It was right in the moment where we had to move all of our stuff. So that was vaguely vexing.
Right.
But in general, besides the weather, how are you feeling about life? How are you feeling about technology? We're a couple of technology journalists.
Mm-hmm.
How are you feeling about technology journalism these days?
Well, I kind of need you to talk me off the ledge a little bit because I'm impatient with it. I'm feeling like over the past couple years, it's just become kind of a cesspool of negativity. And I think the AI thing has really thrown everybody for a loop and just introduced so many issues that are real issues. But we've kind of lost the plot on what's happening that's good and inspiring and human triumphs and stories people can get something from and improve themselves. And it's just become a minefield of negativity. And I'm kind of done. I'm just calling it. I'm like calling it a day on that. I don't want to do that anymore as much as possible. And it might be the blizzard, but I just want to change. I want to change the tune more broadly in myself and outside myself.
Well, I'd be happy to talk you off the ledge. One needs only to look at the big picture rather than the small minutia. There's a thing called hedonic adaptation, which is however good or bad things are, you get used to it. That becomes the baseline, and then you either complain. So for example, people complain about. I could complain about the light drizzle, right? Okay, so, imagine the Donner Party coming and hearing me talk about the drizzle in Mexico City. Technology is actually, on the whole, quite a wonderful thing. Like I said, I'm in Mexico City. I remember stories in my youth when I was younger, like in the 80s and even in the early 90s. Birds used to literally drop out of the sky dead from the air quality. And there was a type of crime back then called fast food robberies, where you'd get in a taxi. The taxi would turn out to be a criminal enterprise. They would take you around the corner, make you drain your ATM. Then they hold you hostage till after midnight so you could max it out again. And then they would take all your stuff and leave you in a bad neighborhood. That used to be very common in Mexico City.
Wow.
It doesn't exist anymore thanks to Uber. So Uber's we all have our problems with Uber, but it's a reputation-based service where you can see how many stars the drivers have. You can decide whether to accept or not, and there's a certain level of accountability. Yeah, there's problems with Uber. We've heard the extreme cases where Uber drivers turn out to be criminals and so on, but that's rare. And nowadays, still, the taxis are just like, you don't take a taxi in Mexico City. And why would you? There's Uber. There's also Didi, which is just like Uber, except cheaper. And so that's a positive thing. The air quality has improved because of, wait for it, technology. So since the 90s, the Mexico City government has have vehicle emission controls. They got rid of all the Volkswagen Beetles. They have electric buses everywhere. They've planted massive numbers of trees. They have done all kinds of things that have materially made the air quality much, much better. It still can be not great, but it's livable now, and it's a place where people want to come now, which isn't the case. Again, technology has done all that. Plus, you can get an Airbnb. You can use Google Maps to get around so you don't get lost. There's just a million little things that we've already taken for granted that make traveling to a city like Mexico City, which is a great city, doable. So
that's true. But also, hasn't Mexico's economy grown a lot too?
It has.
That's a big thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Mexico obviously has problems. with drug cartels and stuff. That's an event that's happening today. There's a big drug cartel issue elsewhere in the country. And, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There's way too much disparity in terms of income. That's true in the
Yeah.
United States as well. But in Mexico, it has a particularly, the rich are particularly rich and the poor are much poorer in general.
Right.
So a lot of problems. But I'm just saying that technology has this way of chipping away at problems over time and makes things better. I wouldn't want to, if I had a time machine, I'd go into the future. I wouldn't go into the past. Let me put it that way. And the other thing is I just wrote a column for Computer World that sounded negative, but it really wasn't ultimately meant to be. Basically, the headline is AI killing technology? And basically what I was doing is I was bringing to light all the little snippets that you hear about here and there about things like chip shortages, hard
Right.
disk shortages,
It's a big
prices.
thing right now.
Yeah, it is. Hardware prices going up, especially for your snarky tech journalists always complaining about these things. Delays in GPUs, COVID-like shortages because of the gobbling up of things, and on and on and on and on. And I'll read one particularly hilarious comment that was posted on X, I think about 4 or 5 days ago.
I thought you were going to
This
say
person-
one hilarious line that I wrote.
No, it's not one of your hilarious lines. This is and this one is more of an exaggeration than either one of us would actually put in print. But the guy said, I don't know what his name is, it's Jatin. I don't know who this is, but he said, the reason why RAM has become 4 times more expensive is that a huge amount of RAM that has not yet been produced was purchased with non-existent money to be installed in GPUs that also have not been produced in order
That's
to place them
true.
in data centers that have not yet been built, powered by infrastructure that may never appear to satisfy demand that actually does not exist, and to obtain profit that is mathematically impossible.
Yeah.
But there's a bright side, which is that, and this is the point I made at the end of my column, which is that all this is temporary. All the stuff everyone complains about with AI, almost all of it, the hallucinations, the RAM shortages, the costs, the monetization issues, these are all temporary. And so I think that I'm not going to say bubble, that's a financial term and it's a loaded one, but everything we're experiencing right now is temporary. And in general, the AI is actually a pretty amazing thing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think it's worth explaining also a little bit about that. I don't know if people fully get. I mean, there have been so many AI deals signed in the past couple years, and you think about data centers, which are largely what's sucking up all those chips or the capacity of the components, the supply chain that goes inside the chips. So whether it's data center, a chip for inside a data center, or a smaller chip maybe for something that you own in your house, it's all coming from the same place in a different format. And basically, because they've just made these, I mean, this is my theory, I have researched this, but because they've made these long-term inventory projections for data centers, they're just securing supply from, chip providers for 6 months, a year. They have to meet these projections. So that supplier is just saying, well, we're booked, come back in a year. But the thing is that these data centers might not actually happen. They're still hot air. They're just paperwork. They're just lawyers right now.
Yeah.
And future projections. So I don't know. I hope that it doesn't come to life as we've seen it over the past year. And I hope that it fizzles out a little bit, because one thing that isn't temporary is if they do build a gigantic data center, that's a physical structure that's taking up larger than the size of the Mall of America. I mean, they're huge. So I think we just have to hope that it doesn't come to fruition and maybe try to be more positive to instill an alternate reality, because right now it's like this downward spiral, self-fulfilling cycle of everyone acting like everything is changing all the time. And it's like we've just given up on a different route.
Everything has a reaction, and there's a big political reaction, a grassroots movement against data centers in certain places. And many of these are being successful. And
yeah, they are.
So
which is
this
good.
is what politics is for. This is what democracy is all about. And again, it's not going to be perfect, but I think that we'll end up with a negotiated settlement where data centers, I think, will be built. More data centers. There are obviously a lot of data centers already in existence, and also power to power all this stuff. There's a huge demand for future power,
Mm-hmm.
but at some point, AI will shrink, right? So I think that small language models on the edge, in devices, in close to where it's being used, is really the future, where everything will be special purpose AI. Not everything, but and we'll still have these data centers, which will be useful for lots of things, including AI. We'll have more power. Hopefully, we'll have more clean energy.
Mm-hmm.
And in any event, I agree with you that the negativity is too much. And I remember when it was the opposite.
Yeah, please. I
We
want to hear
used
about
to,
that time. Like, I feel like it used to be really fun reporting and following tech because it almost had this renegade rebel vibe to it of like, oh, this new thing. And it was exciting. It was breaking norms. It was going to bring equality. It was going to empower individuals in their homes. And now we're just, it seems like every article is about fighting greed or about some egomaniac, or it's just all the negative sides of tech are kind of like when I entered it.
yeah, I mean, so there was the phase you're talking about, which is the optimistic, we're going to, governments have no power over the internet, we're going to have this sense of freedom. Okay, there's that phase. And then there's the next phase that I was talking about, which is, I guess the 2000s or whatever, where, there was a ton of access journalism where people were like rah rah, like loving the tech companies, really
Yeah.
sucking up to them all the time, just rewriting their press releases and basically being on their side about everything. And so
Hmm.
that was vexing and annoying.
That
And
way you were having
so,
a podcast about the opposite thing, how everyone needed to be more negative.
exactly, right, exactly. And so, to a certain extent, I mean, I remember, as a journalist, I was always being invited by people to go hang out with them. It's like there was a shameless attempt by, highish level people to sort of pal around with the tech journalists,
Mm-hmm.
and I turned down all of those. Like I don't want to be their friend, and
Mm-hmm.
but most people don't. In fact, the whole point of a Apple event is to go and say, hey, look, I'm at the Apple event. There's literally no information that you're going to get at an Apple event that isn't going to be the information that we all have, that everyone in the world has. They're not actually taking people aside and saying, okay, I'm just going to tell you this one thing. That's why it's great you came, because I'm going to give you exclusive information. That doesn't happen at Apple events. It's a
No.
big
It's more like
dog and pony show.
relationship building, kind of. Yeah.
It's access journalism. Like
Yeah.
it's like look at me, I was invited,
You're right.
and so anyway, it's our uh, colleagues, I guess, our peers, I think still have a ways to go to where they can really provide on the whole, accurate information about what's really happening. In the meantime, I'm thrilled about the little things like, for example, the way we do this podcast wasn't
Mm-hmm.
possible 5 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
right? A podcast at all wasn't possible, 20 something years ago. And so, I know that the early pioneers had to build this massive infrastructure. In fact, going even before that, if you wanted to reach 100,000 people with information as a talking head on a screen, right? You needed a news van with a satellite thing on top. You needed a crew. You needed tons of expertise, and it cost $1 million. And
Yep.
it was very difficult. And nowadays, you don't need anything that everybody already doesn't have. You need a smartphone. That's all
Right.
you need. And so, like what we're doing, we use Riverside. It's one of many podcasting solutions where we could do live shows. We can take, we can do all this stuff. It basically records locally, then stitches it together in the cloud later, and then you can go edit it. You can edit the video by just editing the words. So I can go in and just take out a whole sentence, and then it is cut from the video. It's easy. It's cheap. It's
Mm-hmm.
amazing, actually, that we can do this podcast the way we do it. Amazing. Like, it's really incredible. And so you get used to it in 5 seconds. And then after that, every little problem is like a trespass upon your tranquility, right?
We just were so spoiled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even when things are weird, like when I'm orange and you're pink, as if you're watching the video, you know what I'm talking about. I don't, it's just, but it's, again, world's smallest violin.
We do what we can. I mean, yeah, Apple had the whole thing you sent me that's podcasts are turning into video. Of course, we've always done video, but now if I'm pink and you're orange, we got to care more about it. So we have,
and I'm not really sure that
problems.
Yeah, I actually don't think that Apple, if Apple is predicting, they're adding services to the Apple podcast world that are going to be very friendly to video. That's what's happening, and we don't know all the details about it. But I wouldn't predict that video is going to become massively more. It's not going to be more people watching video than listening. I don't believe that's going to happen because listening to a podcast is so great. Like that's one of the greatest reasons to embrace podcasting, is that while you're hiking, while you're driving, while you're doing the dishes, while you're just living your life, you can actually enjoy conversations like this one, just without having to look at a screen. And so I think that audio podcasts are really going to continue to be the future of podcasting. I think what Apple's really interested in is, I think that video podcasting is theoretically more monetizable for a company like Apple. So Apple's really into high quality stuff. Like if you look at Apple TV Plus, these shows are so incredibly well produced and perfect visually. And I think they want perfect, when they're thinking about video podcasting, they're thinking of television like income, right?
I don't know, because Spotify already has videos on its podcast, and it's just, you just see the guest talking or the host talking. And I think that is the future. And I think that the highest growth in media consumption right now is in video, and particularly vertical phone videos. So I think Apple's actually very late to that realization. I'm not sure what's been going on there.
They're late to everything.
Super, super late. Like, to the fact that they put this press release out, and I was like, so say what? Like, it's already been happening.
But I do believe that, like, basically you and I do this too. I think most podcasts that have video do this. They use the video version to promote the podcast generally. And then most of the people who respond to that and actually subscribe to the podcast subscribe on audio. So the video,
they both play though. They both play on Spotify. Yeah. You just have to say, I want the video or not. So it just becomes one and the same. It's an option. Yeah.
I mean, personally, I just listen to podcasts in their entirety, but I see clips for podcasts on YouTube and elsewhere all the time.
Right. People need their background noise, whether or not that's a background of a video or it's a podcast, up to them. But okay, question, point, comment, thought on like, how do we get out of this negativity cycle, dig ourselves out? I think that, this is a tale as old as time, but it's just the internet rewards outrage. And that, I think, how do we free ourselves of these algorithms? And I don't think AI is the answer, because whether it's a journalist posting something or a CEO posting something like Sam Altman or Elon Musk or these guys, I look at all their posts, the more extreme and the more somewhat doomsday tinged vibe of their post, by far the better it does. Or there was that something big column that came out. It's like apocalyptic vision. That is really doing well, quote unquote, in terms of engagement, likes, comments on the internet. And it's not just journalism that's participating in that. It's everybody. Like, that's just the dialogue. And maybe we're just so deep in the algorithm, we just like cannot get out. I know you have thoughts on that.
I definitely do. And I think that really there's really no fixing human nature. People will always be drawn to outrageous things. People will always be ignorant about things to varying degrees. The public in general on any randomly chosen topic is going to be very ignorant on that topic, even if they're specialized and know everything about some other topic. And so people are what they are. For us, I think we need to, I've done something similar myself. I've had a blog since for a couple decades at least. And it's changed like what it was. Like I used to do a
Mm-hmm.
blog of all this like crazy funny things that I would encounter as
Yeah.
a tech journalist that didn't have a place in the publications I wrote for. Then it turned into something else. And then for the last 5 years, it's been a very dissatisfying way to promote all my other work, basically. And then occasionally I'd say, hey, you know what? I'm going to put pictures there, and then do that for a while. And they're like, yeah, didn't feel right. So lately, my latest pivot on my blog, which I'm hoping will be the last one, and I'm just going to continue blogging this way, is I now have no pictures, no AI, no editor, no nothing. I basically just write a little, I have a thought or some advice or, an observation, and I just write up a short blog post and I post it. That's it. And it's just
Great.
words.
Are you in a
And
dark room wearing earplugs that gets a full sensory deprivation tank and just whatever comes out, comes out?
Unfortunately, that doesn't travel well, and I tend to
That's
travel.
true.
But actually,
That's
I
cool,
post
though.
I use Posthaven, and I post via email, so which is really
Hmm.
particularly satisfying. So the subject line is the headline, and everything below becomes the body. And so last night, I posted, from a taco joint from my phone, a blog post. And so the key behind that is to not care about being viral or being
Yes.
whatever. The key is to, again, back to the original advice that I think people like us should often come back to, which is that instead of trying to figure out what everybody wants, we should try as best we can to just do our thing, and whomever likes our thing can hopefully find us one way or another. So I do promotion on this blog, like on the social networks. That has limited effect. But, I just think on the whole, in general, some of the people who are interested in the stuff that I do and the thoughts that I have will find me. And I have a few ways for people to subscribe to my stuff to make it a little stickier, and then just kind of shrug and leave the radically viral posts to the people who really, for whom that's super important.
Mm-hmm.
And also as editorialists, we should be commenting on this phenomenon about how, it's really not a good life to spend all your time worrying about what's going viral and all that kind of stuff, because this stuff is usually irrelevant.
And it's not a good use of your time. I love that you're doing that. And it's not a good use of your time to use AI to write hyperbolic, apocalyptic posts and try to go viral on a social media platform, or to make a fake video, or just these things that are happening all the time that we've become so immune to. And yeah, I'm getting fed up with it too. I've actually had similar thoughts to you, where I've thought maybe I already have a personal website. I think it's like emilyforlini.com or something. I've had that for years. I mean, it just has selections of my work, a little bit about me, about my background. I mean, people do visit it, look me up and find that page, but I could always just put a blog on that. If you want to read my stuff, great. I think that it's a much more creative space just to not be so concerned about the reaction of everybody all the time. It's kind of stifling and narrowing what people talk about.
I think if we're journalists and if we're artists, we're not artists. I mean, I'm not an artist, but like for artists of any kind, for photographers, for actors, for any sort of content creators, for people generally, I think the thing that we should all strive for is honesty.
Yes.
And because the BS, you get no end of advice on how to go viral, how to have a huge mega hit on TikTok and stuff like that. But that stuff comes and goes, and it has no impact and no benefit to anybody. The stuff that really matters, the books, movies, the journalism, whatever it is that really, really matters, is the stuff that's really true. And so I think most of us should focus more on that. There's not enough of that in the world. And we're entering into a world where everything is fake, right? Fake people, fake writing, fake, everything. And
just sneeze. Sorry, squishing my nose.
See, That's honest. But I think really it sounds corny and it sounds cliche, but I think honest communication is what the world really needs. Like more than
Hmm.
like I think the demand for it goes up with the metric tons of effluent of fake stuff that comes at us all the time. And so I don't know.
Right.
It's a thought. It's a thought.
It's a thought, and it's a good one. And I think in the absence of authenticity or people really bringing like who am I to this piece or this conversation, just kind of reacting knee jerk reactions, you kind of lose sight of what matters. And so there are right now in tech, it's just about money. It's like, and I just don't think that people will feel truly satisfied with that on a deeper level. Some people, of course, having money, you need money. You have to have a certain amount of money to be happy. Sorry, in this world, you do, but you
Yeah.
do not need what is happening right now in Silicon Valley is really crazy. So there's kind of like this false god situation going on that I just hope people get tired with, but it seems to be getting worse. So I'm not sure.
But I do think people are getting more tired of it. I see a
Do
lot of
it? Is it
criticism.
just you and me, or I mean, maybe
No,
people who are listening? Are you getting tired of it? I don't know.
I mean, in the social circles that I travel in, everybody's tired of it. You
Yeah.
see the cheerleaders online, but you don't I don't meet them in person for the
Mm-hmm.
most part.
Well, the funny thing has been with AI in the past couple of years is everyone's just like a feeling of obligation. I have to learn it. I have to do this or I'm going to fall behind. And that's the punchline of all these apocalyptic posts I'm talking about on different social media platforms. That something big thing. His conclusion, his recommendation was to avoid basically getting chewed up and spit out by AI. You have to learn to use it. And that's what Sam Altman says. That's what everybody says. Like, you're just going to become extinct if you don't learn to use it. So it's this big post at corporations and boardrooms around the country, around the world, and households around the world, and people's hearts of around the world. Like, okay, I got to use AI. I got to use these tools. You know, it's like been this huge push. What platform do I like? You know, how do I prompt it? What can I upload? How's it going to respond? Why did it say this one day and that? That it's just it's just been this big push. And I think a lot of people are, I would hope, just kind of being like, what if I don't really want to do that anymore?
Well, like I said earlier, I think all this stuff is temporary, and I've been through this in multiple technologies. When I think the first computer I got was a Commodore 64. It had its storage drive was literally a cassette tape.
Yeah.
That you take, and it's like to load the program was like a minute and a half or something like that, and to use a computer, then you had to program it. So like it was the same kind of thing. Like right now, it's called AI FOMOs, which you're talking about, where people feel like they really need to master this stuff. I think it's only a matter of months before mastering these stuff, like learning all this stuff, is kind of irrelevant because it's got to come to us. And I think
Yeah,
that
it has to prove itself to us. And so there's all these studies that corporations are not seeing the ROI, or they laid people off and the quality has gone down, or, you know, but some people, they are having good experiences. Their quality at work has gone up. Okay, great. I support you. Go forth, you know. People just need to follow what feels good.
right. But for example, like, I'm super into prompt engineering. That's a skill that has to be learned right now. But I think in a year, that's a skill that won't matter, because I think the AI will be improved to the point where that kind of prompt engineering is kind of built in.
Yeah.
And
Prompt engineering is
and
kind of dorky. It's kind of
yeah,
like you figuring out how to talk to this computer. Right? It's like, I don't know.
yeah, yeah, completely. It's somewhat ridiculous that you have to harp on it and hound it to
Yes.
be accurate. And lately, I've noticed just in the last week, I've been using Gemini 3.1. It's been hallucinating left and right,
Yeah.
and just doesn't understand basic things. I was asking a question earlier about the blood moon that's coming up on March 3rd and what time it's going to be visible in Mexico City, and it gave me the wrong time. It gave me like
Yeah.
3 hours earlier. And then I said, well, what time is it going to be visible in California? And it's like, though, that doesn't make sense because if it's at this time in California, it should be this time in Mexico City. And basically what it was doing is it was reading up on the last blood moon time of day.
Oh,
And I gave it a specific, I said March 3rd, 2006. I give it the year. And it still just kind of barfed out a hallucinating answer. And I think in the last week, probably 25% of the replies, and I'm using my crazy like prompts about being accurate, have
yeah.
been hallucinatory in some way or another. So
Wow.
I just, it's, but again, I think AI hallucinations at some point will be fixed and won't really occur. I think we'll always have a problem with AI
Maybe.
being banal and sort of average and generic
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. But
But
again, I
isn't
think
it
it's
disheartening that the hallucinations are just truly not fixed at all? We're multiple years in. I mean, maybe 2 years. What ChatGPT came out November 2022
two.
already, and now it's 26. But that's 3 years, pretty much. I mean, maybe that's unrealistic to think it would be fixed, but it really is not, and people think it is. To your point.
Yeah, the fixing of it is really a band-aid on top of a flawed model for what people use it for. So we use it for search engines. It's a terrible thing to use for search engines based on the reality of what LLM-based generative AI chatbots are, right? They're just guessing they're like, here's some words. I know all the words. Here's some words. Here's an example of some words. And you're like, well, actually I'm interacting with it as if it's a mind that understands what I'm saying and it uses vast knowledge to give me a coherent answer. The fact that it ever does that is kind of a miracle, right?
Oh yeah. It is adding that new tool. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think the hallucination factor is a huge problem, given how many people are using this and what they're using it for. And I think there will be enormous time and energy and money applied to the problem of accurate answers. And that's something that is slapped onto the end. That's not an architectural reality. Until we have an entirely different kind of AI that sweeps all this stuff away, they have to do a ton of work on the interface part of it, on basically, it's essentially prompt engineering that they do, right? And I think we need a lot more work on that sort of thing. But again, I think most of the problems we're having with AI are temporary. And so I think we can look forward to a future in which AI is super useful to us all the time for a million things. And we'll talk to it through our wearable devices. It'll be built into our cars and houses. It'll just be sort of this thing that we will take for granted. And I think it'll largely help us. So
yeah, I think it'd be cool if it felt a little more like a project to make that happen and to intellectually do the nuanced way, call out these issues. Everyone agrees these are the issues. How are we going to solve them? How are we going to use the tool differently to overcome them? That would be a better vibe for the industry and also the journalists that track it. Because hallucinations are a problem. These companies don't talk about it. And there's no real education on how to get around that. And it's like a shaky foundation. And I think maybe that's what causes people to feel negative about it, or deep fakes are happening. It's just, there's this big illusion that nothing's a problem. So people get really hopped up on calling them out because it's like, hello. It just doesn't feel like anyone's working together. It's so divided. I wish they would be more honest, and I wish that we could just have a better dialogue about AI.
Yeah. I made a prediction a few years ago, and I still hold to it. I actually believe that social networks will become the most reliable source for information.
Oh, I thought you were going to say go away, which was going to make me happy.
No, I think they're going to become, there's social networking, which is where people interact. You discover new people and it's interesting, and you have friends online. That's one version. Social media is when you have algorithmic based, information, sometimes media, sometimes other sources that percolates up based on an attention algorithms trying to steal as much of your life as possible. That's the part we want to go away. However, I think that I think that generative AI, once they figure out how to apply it, can be applied at scale for moderation on social media. So far, it's been a disaster.
Yeah.
It's really a big problem, but I think that it will be improved to the point where we'll not only be able to surf it, sort of ding sources, information based on its likely disinformation, but also be able to trace it to its source, find out where it came from. For example, right now,
if they do it well, that's what I'm saying. I just not a lot of confidence. Yeah.
But it's the kind of thing that AI should be able to do well. So, for example, one of the things that happens right now is some whack job nutcase on X will post some ridiculously false thing.
Yes.
It goes out there, and then some shameless moron will pick it up and spout it, who has the ear of somebody on a cable news network, who will point out, will say something, and then the president sees that, and then he says something, and then that's news because the president said it, and then the million other people repeat it, and this is this thing. But AI should be able to just spot that instantly. Oh, this came from this person, even on a different social network. This originated with this person who has a history of disinformation and lying and stuff like that. Let's just not throw it into the algorithm that's being spread globally.
Well, I think the best thing Elon Musk has ever done is community notes on X.
It works pretty well.
That's a good BS detector. People will say, okay, I'm in this blizzard. Maybe there's a crazy video of blizzards, it's covering an entire house. And I'll say like, oh, the nor'easter of 2026. Like, whoa, that's crazy. X will actually comment and be like, no, this isn't AI. This is a fake image. This is not, like, that region is currently experiencing 6 inches of snow. That's very helpful.
Very helpful. And it's something humans can't do at scale unless you want to spend, trillions of dollars, which nobody does. But I can see a future in which that sort of information is demoted, right? Voted down as if it were on Reddit by the algorithm. But if you still find it, it can give you the community notes, the context, what's true, factually, where it came from, what the alternative points of view are. And of course, people will try to game even a system like that. But I think that it'll come to the point where, and one of my fears, this is the dystopian part, I think a lot of the disinformation energy that is currently applied to social networks will be applied to actual people like journalists. So I think there's going to be a concerted effort in the future to really get reporters to believe things that aren't true so that they report it.
That's already happening.
True. Yeah, I know it's happening, but I think,
I've had that experience
like Russia,
a couple
for example.
times. Yeah. I mean, I wrote an article this week about Reddit, which used to be a treasure trove for journalists. All these real stories, crazy things happening around the world. Wow, I didn't know that tech could do that, or that person had this crazy experience on XYZ platform. And I have had once I reached out to somebody to try to verify a story that their kid spent their entire life savings on Roblox, because I have heard people's kids spending with their credit cards on Roblox, and I was like, I really want to write about that because that's really not a good thing. And I found one on Reddit, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. And I reached out, and it ended up just being a fake story, basically. And anyone can just create those in a second. And then the person didn't want to video call. They didn't want to. They told me their phone was broken, like classic,
Yeah.
And then I went back a couple weeks later, and the account was banned. And other journalists are having that experience too. Most people don't have to DM someone on Reddit, or just don't do that. No one should have to. But journalists, I think, are starting to see there's just such an attempt to get anybody, whether it's a person who's going to retweet or comment or upvote or a journalist, any amplification of stuff is what people want, and they're using AI to do it.
Yeah. But again, it's a great service to be able to debunk that stuff. And this is another area where I think in the future, once AI is applied better and the AI itself is better, you can really prioritize that kind of journalism, the debunking stuff. Like you can figure that. So an AI chatbot or some kind of smart machine that has spidering capability should be able to go to Reddit and check, verify everything you said, that person's account has been deleted. Go into the code and find out it was deleted by Reddit for disinformation, that sort of thing. Come back and promote your story
If Reddit
and
exposes
spread that.
it, or
Yeah.
if they keep it because they're profiting off of more engagement on their platform, which they are.
Yeah.
So it's a two-way street.
Yeah. But what happens now very commonly is that the outrageous disinformation goes wildly viral, and then the corrective information is completely ignored. This was always true in even newspapers that would issue corrections. Like, who reads a correction? So there are a few people who would, but for the most part, you remember the story but not the correction. And it's even much worse now in that case of people walking around believing the thing that was debunked, but nobody saw the debunking.
It's all about what are you incentivizing. And right now, people are leading with fake. They're leading with whatever is going to create engagement and outreach because they're incentivized to do that, literally profiting off of that. Your account, you can make more money per post, the crazier it is. So now you have AI tools that are taking the crazy on steroids. So how are we incentivizing people? We're incentivizing them to lead with phony baloney from AI and not even who they really are. So that's what I'm saying is like, how do we just make it a more natural system where people are contributing in a positive way? Because it's not happening right now.
Yeah. Yep. But I do think it's going to get better at some point. And I think there'll be other sources of I think things that are considered more reliable now, like books and journalism, will struggle more in the immediate future, like in the next 10 years, 15 years. And I think that social networks will get better. This is a crazy thing. Nobody else is predicting this. I could very well be wrong about this, but it sounds insane to say that I think social networks will become one of the most reliable sources of information. It should be the case. I don't know whether it will be the case, but based on what's possible in technology, well,
it's possible, again, but the human nature right now is just going to get ugly.
Yeah, if it wasn't for people, humanity would be awesome.
And money. Yeah. I think the thing that's cool about books is you can almost be more authentic because it's harder to share the content, Like I'd rather divulge a secret in a book than in a post.
Yep. And there's also a monetary incentive. In fact, there's been a lot of criticism of that in the mainstream media, where I think it was Jake Tapper has gotten into a lot of trouble. All his news programs have become an infomercial for his book. And that's the world we live in, where it's like, if you're not just completely shameless in selling your stuff, you're just not, you're just leaving money on the table. And why would you do that? So,
right.
But a lot of books are AI written garbage. So that's something to watch out for. But anyway, I think
interesting prediction.
Yeah. But to summarize, I think that
wow, we're already at 45 minutes.
Yeah, can you believe it?
No, I actually can't.
Time flies when you're having fun.
I had another thought. I had one last thought. Can I?
Yes, please.
Okay. I think a positive change in how we use AI right now, people think of it as the first draft. Generate something and then build off of it. I think people should still be writing the first draft, and then the AI comes in at the end for maybe edits, refinements, suggestions. But maybe the quality or the output would be better. It would be still like a blend of what we're saying. It's just more authentic. You had to actually put two brain cells together from the start. And then you just kind of get a little tweaks at the end. That might be a short-term way to improve authenticity and quality of these posts.
I completely agree. I think that's great advice. I think that's even good advice for developers to a certain extent. And I've seen that advice expressed. I don't remember where exactly. I think I posted it on a couple of social networks. But yeah, struggle at the beginning by yourself, and then bring AI in the end. Yeah, it's the struggling that makes us learn. And I also think it's we have to be careful with just getting too comfortable letting AI think for us, write for us.
Totally.
And we should be suspicious of that comfort, and also suspicious of our own self-esteem based on the work that's largely produced by a chatbot. But again, this is a learning curve that we all are engaged in. And this thing hit us pretty hard. It seemed to solve a lot of problems we used to have. We're all too busy. who has time to read or write emails. Just let the machines do it. But I think we need to get back to it and figure out how to use these things better. We have to adjust, and people are slow in general adjusting to new technology. And this technology is coming at us really fast. So,
absolutely. Well said. No notes. You're always good. All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up. You ready?
I'm ready.
This is fun. I kind of feel like we were just like on AM radio or something talking about
Yeah.
AI.
I think our audience is similar in size to AM radio.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Does AM radio still exist?
Yeah, I thought of that because I listened to it today. I was driving and I wanted to find an old school broadcast of the hockey game. The USA versus Canada hockey game. I thought that'd be fun going down the highway in a blizzard listening to an AM radio live stream.
Wow.
But then I found one, but the guy, they were doing it remotely like us, but one guy was watching it on TV, the other guy was on YouTube TV, and one guy's stream was a minute delayed from the other guy. So it's just like, all right. They spent the whole time saying like, well, you tell me the information, I'll just bet on it. Like, you're a minute ahead.
Amazing. I mean, you and I have been 5 or 6 seconds off, I think, here and there, but
yeah,
not a minute.
Well, anyway, thank you for joining our AM radio program, everybody. I'm going to call it a program. Maybe Winston Churchill will join, give it his old 40s voice. Next time we'll have him on. But this has been fun. Sometimes we just gotta not necessarily have too much structure and just kind of think more broadly about technology. And I think we definitely did that today. So thank you, everybody, for being along for the ride. And we will see you next week.